Jackson here at Song Mentor, and today's rockin' selection is the Beatles, I Feel Fine. Well, in 1961, an artist by the name of Bobby Parker recorded a song called Watch Your Step. And if you listen to that song, you'll see where John Lennon, 3 years later, got his inspiration for the riffing in I Feel Fine. He was determined to write a song based around that riffing, and came back one day finally with some ideas and told Ringo Starr, I've got a song, but it's not very good. Well, we know different. So they got together in the studio and finished the song, put it together and released it as an A-side. A wonderful tune. Lennon was also intrigued by gimmicks and gadgets and sounds and special effects. So when some feedback occurred during the recording of the song, he liked it so much that he decided to put it at the beginning of the track. Here's 1964, the Beatles, I Feel Fine.
I'm so glad that she's my little girl. She's so glad she's telling all the world that her baby buys her things, he buys her diamond rings, she said so.
All right, great stuff. All great stuff, including the chord progressions in this song, as well as that. I keep using the word signature, but it is the signature riff and signature intro for I Feel Fine, which, as we discussed in the intro, was borrowed from an older song, but still really wonderful intro bit. So we'll get to the intro bit shortly, but let's talk about the chords needed for I Feel Fine. You needed a G bar chord, a B minor bar chord, an open C, an open D, an A minor, and a D7. And then also up here you need a D bar chord up here and a C bar chord up here. And also we're going to spend some time on what Lennon would be playing for rhythm in this song. So you need a G7 bar chord, a D7 chord in this position, and I'll show you how to play that in just a moment, and then a C7 chord. So the C7 chord here is just an open C with a pinky added to the 3rd fret of the 3rd string. So we get that C7, slide it up 2, and we get that D7 chord that John used all the time. Okay, so G7, D7, and C7. So just to review again, G bar chord, a B minor bar chord, an open C, an open D, an A minor, a D7, and then up here you need a D bar chord, a C bar chord, and then for the rhythm section, a G7, a D7 in this position, and a C7 in this position. Seems like lots of chords, but when you put them all together, it's really not that bad. There you go, the chords for I Feel Fine. Well, I'm not using a tube amp for this lesson, but if I were, the intro to the song is, as we mentioned, is kind of a feedback thing that happened accidentally, and then John decided to use it in the song. And it's basically an open A string, and then you can hear him. And again, if I had a tube amp here, it would be a lot more accentuated. But basically, what I'm doing there is I'm using my 2nd finger and really, really slowly playing that harmonic on the A string 7th fret. So just right at the actual 7th fret there, over the fret. You can hear that? And of course then on top of that, if you have the tube amp going and a hollow body guitar, it's pretty easy to have that resonate and then create the feedback for that song. So once you've accomplished that, you're into the opening riff, and we're going to mute this somewhat with the heel of our hand here. We're up on the barring, the 10th fret with our 1st finger, and we're playing a D chord, that bar D chord we talked about, that bar D chord formation up on the 10th fret. So our three other fingers are making essentially an open E chord with the bar at the 10th fret. And then we pick through this intro. So it moves from 10th fret down to the 8th fret bar. And here's what we're doing. So the first is picking on the 6th string, which is at the 10th fret. So now I'm picking with my pinky here, I'm playing the 12th fret of the 4th string, lifting it up, so now it's the 10th fret of the 4th string, and then the 12th fret of the 5th string. Okay, so 6th string, 10th fret, 2 picks down on the 4th string, 12th fret, lift up the pinky to play the 10th fret of the 4th string, and then 1 pick on the 12th fret of the 5th string. Then I take that pinky and I play 2 notes up here. This time I'm on the 12th fret of the 3rd string. But when I lift it off, my second finger is on the 11th fret of the 3rd string. So it's 12, 11 of the 3rd string. So to review. Okay, now I've got a little bit of work. So I have to take that pinky and take it up here. So I'm picking the 14th fret of the D string, and then I'm picking up on the 11th. My second finger's still on the 11th fret, so it's 14, 11, and back to 14. And if you can get it in, I can flatten. I can either move that pinky back down to the 12th fret on the 4th string, or I can flatten out my 3rd finger to catch the 12th fret of the 4th string as my final note. That final note's a little bit optional. Sometimes you hear when George is playing this, he hits it, and especially live, sometimes he hits it. Sometimes he just plays. Which is the easier way to play it. If you try to squeeze that last note in, it complicates it like this. Okay, that's the riff. Now we're going to play that riff here. We're going to move it down 2 frets so that we play it in D, we play it in C, and then the hardest one is when we move down to the G formation and try to play it down here. And I'll show you a little trick for this. We can move that pinky. It's really a stretch, so it is quite a stretch to get to that. You can cheat a little bit here, and when I say cheat, I watched George do this. Again, this is the Shea Stadium concert. I watched him play. Okay, so for the last little bit, now you can definitely play that. You can play that. So we get that far, and then we go 2, 4, 2, open on the 3rd string. So you play the first part of the riff here, and then you move your fingers away from that G chord formation and just grab quickly. 2, 4, 2, open. So that, with a little cheat, is the signature riffing in I Feel Fine. But let's talk about the rhythm. So what John would be playing in a verse here would be that G7, D7, C7 rhythm. So it'd be something like this. whole time that's playing, the lead guitar is playing. Okay, so it goes from the riff down at G to the riff up at D. And actually it's a little bit different there. Hear what I'm playing? And then we get to she's in love with me and I feel fine. Okay, and that corresponds with she's in love with me and I feel fine. So we've got those two parts going on in a verse. So let's do a little playthrough of a verse. 1, 2, 3.
Baby's good to me, you know she's happy as can be, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine.
Well, let's move on to the little bridge section, or we could call it the I'm so glad that she's my little girl section. And here's the chord progression for that piece of the song. It's a G chord, B minor, open C, D, G again, B minor, A minor, and D7, and back into a verse. So let's do a little playthrough of that section. Okay, let's not take this drumming for granted, so before the playthrough, let's take a close look at the right hand there. Okay, so we've got sort of picking the top notes of that G chord. So it's a down, and then an up, down, up. So each time I'm sort of picking the root note, and then a strum down, and then an up, down, up. I'm so glad that she's my little girl. She's so glad she's telling all the world. Okay, now let's do that playthrough. 1, 2.
I'm so glad that she's my little girl. She's so glad she's telling all the world that her baby buys the things, you know.
For the time it takes, it's almost impossible for me to not want to have the fun to throw in those harmonies for you, so I hope you don't mind that. Just to show you that they are there. And it's I'm so glad. That section is done with lyrical harmony, so the words are actually sung. I'm so glad. And then that she's my little girl is done with a just an ooh ooh for the second part of it. So I'm so glad. And there's a harmony in the ooh ooh, which of course was George and Paul singing that harmony together. Let's talk about the short but sweet little lead break in this. And it's just like this. Okay, so what we're doing there is we're using our second and third fingers, and there's a reason for that I'll show you in a sec. And we're sliding up. They're 1 fret apart, so wherever you slide from, probably 2 frets down. Let's say we start with your second finger on the 4th fret of the 2nd string. Then your third finger is 1 fret higher on the 3rd string. So it's 4th fret, 5th fret. And we're sliding up so that we end up, after the slide, at 6 and 7. Then we're going to slide again. This time we're going to end up at 8 and 9. So the first time is 6 and 7. Second time is 8 and 9. And now the nice thing about using fingers 2 and 3 is the third one is back down to 6 and 7. So it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7. Now I can just take that third finger, which is on the 7th fret, and I go slide it down to 5, use the first finger to play 3, and then the third finger to play 5 on the 4th string. So again. Back into the opening riff. All right, well, I've given you everything, all the little bits. So let's do a playthrough, which includes a couple verses, the bridge section, and the lead solo. And we'll do the lead work picture in picture for you. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Baby's good to me, you know she's happy as can be, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine. Baby says she's mine, you know she tells me all the time, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine. I'm so glad that she's my little girl. She's so glad she's telling all the world that her baby buys the things you know. He buys her diamond rings, you know she said so. I'm in love with her and I feel fine.
All right, fine tuning for I Feel Fine. Well, this riff is a little bit tricky, and it's a little bit it's really tricky to coordinate picking with fingers, especially when that pinky's moving around to do things. So this does take practice to get it right, and then practice to keep it right. It's a very easy riff to mess up a little bit. So work at it as much as you can. Great rhythms in this song, a simple but effective little lead break. And as far as the ending goes in the song, we know that it goes from, it repeats this line. She's in love with me and I feel rough. She's in love with me and I feel fine. Work out some kind of an ending like that, because basically it just fades on the G riff there to conclusion. All right, I Feel Fine. Hope you had fun with this one. A classic Beatles tune here on Song Mentor. We'll see you next time.